So welcome. It is so exciting. I wasn't sure the turnout because there are some stellar sessions happening right now, so I just feel very privileged to have the opportunity to walk alongside all of you today in our journey with our own learning. We'd like to thank Doug. He emailed us, I think in the spring, said, hey, I got this idea for this proposal. I said, of course. Doug's a friend, whatever you need to do. Then I completely forgot about it. And then all of a sudden, I think it was September, Doug sent us an email saying, hey, I need your stuff, what do you think? And then I got into panic mode. I've never given a TED Talk. I've seen them on YouTube. We probably shared them with our own staffs. So I was excited to do that, but really nervous. But I was excited because I'm able to represent my family, my second home at Northern Hills Middle School and Forest Hills Public Schools. I know I don't look it, but this is my 14th year as a school leader, either as an assistant principal or a principal. I've been a principal at both elementary and now at the middle school level. So again, I didn't know what to do, so I did what any person would do, is I went to Wikipedia. So what makes a good TED Talk? What should I be doing? Should I do cartwheels? And what I learned is a sign that I have in my office that I share with 13, 14-year-olds all the time. The sign says, be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. And so the feedback I got is, give your own TED Talk. All the other TED Talks are taken. And so I love to laugh. I love to joke. As Doug, I was preparing a fictitious TED Talk last night, just going through, just trying to get that speak. So I love to laugh. And so today we'll be leading with instruction. And so I want all of you to kind of close your eyes right now and think back to when, if you were a school leader, when you first got that job. You signed that contract, as Joe talked about today, you were given that job offer. Think back to that moment. Okay, and then come back. I don't know about you, but this was me. You get your that first principal job, assistant principal job. I was like cloud 9. I didn't know if my head could get bigger. It was possible at that point. But I felt like, yes, I've arrived. We're talking like self-actualization, Maslow, I just wow, I worked hard. People recognized that. I interviewed. I remember the first round of the interview, the principal said, we think you do a great job, but my veteran staff would never work for a kid or look like who looks as young as you do. So what? Okay, great. But it kept going along. I was like, yeah, sweet. And then, believe it or not, it got better because you want to know what? I nailed the locker assignments. My first week in an AP, and we're not talking about just the regular locker assignments like A through Z and 1 through 250. But what we did is that we had lockers assigned by homeroom, and so I had to figure out how many home kids in this homeroom needed lockers, and then space out 2 extra, and then make sure that homerooms didn't go over to another hallway, and that was it. And then on top of all that, if this dates me a little bit, the AS400 scheduling system. Does anybody remember the AS400? Okay, it's a dinosaur. Power School is like a gem, and I don't think anybody will ever say Power School is a gem. But anyways, AS400, kids all had schedules. Life was great. I was like, I got this principal thing down. And then about a month into the job, reality set in, because I was at a math PLC meeting. And a really kind of sobering conversation just stopped me in my tracks. When the math department said, how do you think we should best teach math? And I'm like Stryker trying to bring this plane down, and I have no idea. I was a social studies teacher. I think a pretty good one. I worked hard. I wish I could go back and teach now because I've learned so many from the teachers that I serve. I would be such a better teacher. So I try to lead through instruction, but this was me. And I remember his name was Barry. And I won't say his last name, but Barry. And I just said, it's a great question. It's a great question. What do you all think? And a young politician back in my day. And so, but it was a reality that I wasn't there, and yeah, I could do the lockers, and I did those lockers awesome. Those kids had lockers. Who doesn't love doing lockers? But it was this really sobering reality that my teachers needed me to be an instructional leader. And there were 2 areas that I really did a self-assessment. It was when math, and this was when the Common Core with the mathematical standards of mathematical practice were first coming out. And in our district, we had multiple schools, and so There was a camp that really thought constructivist math learning. Another camp was maybe more in traditional math instruction. And the other piece for students who needed me the most that I wasn't prepared to help were our students with IEPs. As a high school social studies teacher, I just didn't have the opportunity to spend a lot of time at IEPs and understand how to support students through accommodations, how to ask the right questions as a valuable team member at an IEP. And so it was that self-assessment, because what I thought when I got into leadership as a principal, like this vision right here, I love this. Leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. I think I put that on my resume. Like, we think about this grand vision of leadership. We think of JFK. Don't ask what you can do for your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. Like these big ideas, these quotes, like William Butler Yeats, education is the lighting of a fire, not the filling of a pail. I can quote all of them because that was what leadership was to me. It was this big idea that I can just get out in front of people and be super happy and inspire and get those kids in lockers. What I realized is that it's more than that. And what we truly need is we need instructional leadership. Hattie, in some of his meta-analysis, differentiates between transformational leadership and instructional leadership. And this was a new concept for me when I thought about it more deeply. Who doesn't want to be a transformational leader? It sounds like you're a Transformer movie, like Bumblebee, man, just nailing it, crushing it every single day, that vision into reality. But what I realized is 80% is what he said, 80% of leaders identify themselves as transformational leaders. That sounds great. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I would suggest that's where we start, where that's the focus on people, the culture, the big ideas. But what we need to really think about is that instructional leadership piece. And it starts with what Amy talked about, Brene Brown, and leading with vulnerability. Having some honest assessments of yourself, of what is your areas of growth, and then communicating that out to your teachers. So this last couple of years, literacy and reading is a growth area for me, that I need to be better for my teachers and my kids. And so I went to my ELA team and I told them that. And I sit side by side with them. I go to PD, and that's what I challenge all of you to, is to think about where do you need to grow as an instructional leader? Where do you see yourself wanting to be to support your teachers? When we think about what it means to be an instructional leader, the idea of a resource provider, so we need to provide resources for our teachers. Part of my dissertation focused on how we can support teacher leadership and teacher leadership in learning, in formal and informal learning. And what we found is that we need to invest in professional learning. So I will also suggest a new model for you to think about, to take away today. I read a great article about a captain of a ship in the 1700s. And it was an educational leadership. I feel nervous sometimes by delegating, that lack of control. Or if I'm not willing to call the bus garage. Or if I delegate, I ask my secretary. So here's an example. If a captain of the ship in 1700 needed to tie every knot, to put the sail up, to cook the dinner for the crew, to map the stars every night to make sure that that ship was going to get to where it needed to go, every crew member on that ship would die in the 1700s. It's not possible. And so leading with instruction means giving your permission to say, you want to know what? I can't be in my school today because I'm going to go with my language arts teachers and roll up my sleeves and sit next to them and not only send them to PD, but be with them in professional learning. That says a lot to our teachers, to our staff, when we're willing to do that. When it says we're going to go to MEMSPA because we're going to become instructional leaders and we're going to focus on our own areas of growth. So I challenge all of you to take stock today of what your areas of growth need to be. And then have honest conversations with your staff. Then find the opportunities to find time when you're going to do that. When you're going to provide the resources, to be a resource for them. Because it's one thing to talk the talk, but we need to walk the walk. Because again, we need to shift from that transformational leadership to really focusing on the classroom practices and measuring what's going to matter the most. And that's student learning supported by our work with the whole child here in our schools. So thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. And again, challenge yourself to figure out what are some things I can let go to be the instructional leader my kids and my teachers need. Thank you.